Summary of The Eyes Are Not Here, Ruskin Bond. The story, The Eyes Are Not Here, is an interesting piece of writing by Ruskin Bond which shows the experience of two blind people as they meet in a train compartment. It is an irony that while they interacted they did not know that they were blind. The commonplace description of the scene of their meeting in a train going to Dehradun is an interesting setup within which the protagonists of the short story interact to present to us a slice of life which is ironical and at the same time deeply enigmatic. The narrator, a blind man, was in a train compartment traveling to Dehradun and the compartment was vacant except for him till a place called Rahana. At Rahana station, a girl got into the compartment. A couple had come to see her off and they were very anxious about her comfort and the narrator feels that they must be her parents. They give usual instructions to the girl such as not to lean out of windows or to talk to strangers, etc. As the train pulled out of the station, they said goodbye to the girl and the train started its journey from Rahana. As the narrator was blind, he could not guess if the girl was beautiful, but he merely figured out that she had a nice voice and she wore slippers as it made sound when she walked. The narrator began a conversation with the girl by asking if she was going all the way to Dehra. The narrator's voice startled her as she hadn't noticed that there was someone in the compartment. The narrator feels that it is the plight of the people who can see that they cannot see what lies right before their eyes. The girl replied that she will be going to Saharanpur where her aunt will be waiting for her. When the girl asked where he was going, he replied that he will go all the way to Dehra and from there to Mussoorie. The girl showed her liking for the hills as she said, "Oh, how lucky you are, I wish I were going to Mussoorie. I love the hills. Especially in October." The narrator agrees that October is the best time as the hills are covered with wild dahlias while almost all tourists are gone and the sun is lovely and one can really enjoy in peace. They were silent for some time and then the girl asked the narrator why he did not look out of the window. The narrator pretended to look out of the window and study the landscape that was passing by. They carried on the conversation by stating how it seems as if the trees are moving and they seem to stand still and then about animals and how hardly any animals are left in the forests of Dehra. Again, they sat in silence for some time after which the narrator remarked that the girl had an interesting face. The girl laughed and replied that usually she hears that she has a pretty face and it is good to hear that she has an interesting one. The conversation then carried on about how the girl hated long journeys by train and that it is a short journey to Saharanpur that she is undertaking presently. The narrator felt that he could sit and hear her talk for eternity, but at the same time he is aware of the fact that the girl will forget about him as soon as this journey ends. As the train drew slowly towards the Saharanpur station, the girl got up and started collecting her things. As the train came to a stop, her aunt arrived and the girl said goodbye to him and left. She left but the perfume of her hair lingered on and the narrator remarked, "You may break, you may shatter the vase if you will, but the scent of the roses will linger there still." There was some confusion in the doorway of the compartment and soon things got settled and a new fellow traveler came and took the seat that the girl has emptied. The train started from Saharanpur and gathered speed. The new fellow traveler started a conversation by saying, "You must be disappointed, I'm not as attractive a traveling companion as the one who just left." When the narrator asked the man whether the girl had long or short hair, the man replied that he does not remember, but he adds that she had beautiful eyes but they were of no use to her, she was completely blind. Didn't you notice? Critical appreciation of The Eyes Are Not Here. All of us know Ruskin Bond to be a writer, especially for the children. The simplicity of his narratives and their appealing quality makes him one of the most read writers in India. He is a novelist of great eminence and his short stories are very crisp and deal with commonplace happenings which make them very engaging to read. The short story, The Eyes Are Not Here, is about two blind passengers in a train compartment and their conversation and how they are not aware that the other person is blind. The meeting of two blind people who are not aware of each other's blindness makes the story very ironical as they both speak to each other about all things in the world apart from the fact that they cannot see the world with their eyes. It is interesting to note that the narrator, the blind man, falls in love with the blind girl without knowing that she is blind. He falls in love can be ascertained from the story as he says that he can carry on listening to the girl for eternity and when the girl is leaving the compartment as her station Saharanpur has come, the narrator wanted to touch her hair and talks about the lingering smell of her hair even after she is gone. It is evident from the story that the narrator has fallen in love with the girl as soon as she gets into the compartment, as he talks about her sweet voice as she talks to her parents and also notices the sound of her slippers as she walks in. The narrator may be a blind person, but he notices each and every movement of the girl as she comes in the compartment. The journey from Rahana to Saharanpur is a short one which lasts for few hours, and within these few hours the narrator begins to bond with the girl, which probably the girl is unaware of, as the narrative is written from the perspective of the narrator. The narrator seems to be a very sensitive young man who is romantic in temperament. He makes all efforts to strike a conversation with the girl so that he can make this journey a memorable one. As he strikes a conversation, he gets to know the girl better. He comes to know that the girl likes hills and the beauty of the hills, especially during the autumn month of October when the tourists are less in Mussoorie and the wild dahlias are everywhere and the sun is pleasant. He also comes to know that the girl does not like long journeys by trains. Thus, if the narrator is inquisitive to know about the girl, then it is also true that the girl is frank enough to speak to the narrator in straightforward ways. Her frank nature makes the girl enigmatic to the narrator, and even after she has left the train compartment, the unnamed protagonist carries on being fascinated by her. It is the competence and literary skill of Ruskin Bond which can make a simple incident such as we see in the story become a plot for a story which is enigmatic. The plot of the story seems to be significant as we come to know that a blind man is narrating the story and talking about her fascination for a female co-traveler whom he meets accidentally in the train compartment. This simple chance meeting is being provided with a twist ending, making the story appear to be great. The twist ending that the readers are made to encounter at the end of the story is that the girl too is blind. This kind of twist often makes short stories very intriguing to read, as they made reading not only interesting but creates suspense in the story which the readers often enjoy with much appreciation. O. Henry, the famous short story writer, is usually known for his twist endings, and here, following the tradition of twist ending, Ruskin Bond in The Eyes Are Not Here creates a thrilling story. The thematic concern of the story is also significant as it deals with the primal passion of humankind, that is, love for person of the opposite sex. Love is a passion which has moved the whole of the humankind and has entertained them with narratives dealing with it. It never goes out of fashion, and Ruskin Bond similarly uses a familiar theme too in the story, but this theme is presented in an unusual way, as it is the love of a blind man. He cannot look at the physical beauty of the girl, suggesting that it is not the physical beauty which is the concern of love, but it is a spiritual connection which matters, and when one feels that metaphysical connection with someone, it survives a lifetime. Hills, the love of Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond has a special bonding with the hill stations of northern India and the foothill towns of the Himalayas, especially Dehradun and Mussoorie, as he was born and brought up here and finds this place to be very fascinating, which makes him present these places to be the set-up background to much of his stories and novels. It is to be remembered here that Ruskin Bond still lives in Landa, Mussoorie, as he feels most comfortable living there and spends most of his times either writing or interacting with his readers and well-wishers in the bookshop of Mussoorie. Even in the short story, The Eyes Are Not Here, Bond speaks of Mussoorie, the beauty of the hills during the autumn months when tourists are less and the wildflowers are in full bloom and the sun is pleasant. One needs to remember that in the Western literature, autumn is usually presented to be a season of desolation, but Bond is making a represented on hilly autumn whose beauty and pleasantness surpasses everything, and the protagonists enjoy this season in the hills of Mussoorie. Characterization. Ruskin Bond delineates his characters in such a simple, straightforward fashion that it becomes easier for the readers to connect with the characters easily. It is interesting to note that none of the characters are given any name in the story, and they are deliberately made to be nameless so that the readers can concern themselves with their passions and concerns and do not necessarily need to feel to know their class, ethnicity, caste, etc. Thus, the unnamed characters are presented in such a fashion that it makes us feel for them. The blindness of the protagonist makes us sympathize with him, yet at the same time, when he tries to cover up his blindness by gazing outside the compartment window as if he can see everything, we know that it is a blatant fact of human nature to cover up one's weaknesses so as to impress others. The protagonist of the story also does the same without realizing that the person whom he is trying to impress by covering up his blindness is also similarly blind. This is the irony of life as well as the story which makes the story so appealing to read and enjoy.